Well, Devin Nunes, thank you so much for sitting down with me. You were the first person to really raise a lot of these red flags about the Russia collusion hoax. You know, you came out and said all of these things, and then what was the reaction that you got? Give us a little reminder.
So they started to target President Trump and his campaign in early 2016. And then after the election, President Trump wins, we were briefed by the FBI and the intelligence agencies after the election on election interference. And you know what the answer was? There was none. The presidential daily brief said exactly what Congress had been told just a couple weeks before. And then they went on this escapade to create this intelligence assessment that then led to the Russia hoax that mired President Trump's first administration. That led to the Mueller investigation, which went on forever. Same people that were involved in the fake whistleblower issue that still is out there. And then it goes all the way to the raid at Mar-a-Lago. So as a congressman and as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, you received a briefing just after the election saying there was no collusion with Russia. And then there's a very famous video of you coming out and talking about the fact that you believe that there was manufactured information. What led you to come out and actually talk about it? Because I think a lot of people would have just said, oh, well, we're just going to kind of look the other way. But you were very strong on that. It came to my attention that, well, wait a second, because there were what appeared to be illegal leaks of classified information. But those leaks didn't make much sense because they always tied Trump to Russia somehow, which we had not seen any of that intelligence. So when I found out that when I reviewed a lot of those documents and I went to my committee in Congress, went to the Speaker of the House and said, look, the president needs to know about this. So I went over to the White House and said, look, I don't know where they're getting this information, but clearly it's illegal, clearly it's leaking. And then I went out to the White House and presented that to the press. But in what happened, as you probably remember, they turned on me and said that I was doing something illegal. And so we had to fight through all that. It took, crazy ethics investigation. So, this is what the president asked me to chair his intelligence board. And, we're here to clean this up to make sure it doesn't happen again. So many of these people were dragged through the mud. A lot of them ended up going bankrupt or having their lives ruined, their reputations ruined by this. You must feel vindicated in so much of what has finally come out. The poster child for this is Carter Page, because here was a guy who actually worked for the CIA on their behalf. He was afraid when he came in to talk to our committee to actually say what he was doing because he thought that he could be breaking some rules. And he thought the CIA and FBI were there to protect him. In reality, they were using him as a pawn. They go to the FISA court, use him illegally, and then they're effectively spying on the Trump campaign throughout the fall and winter of 2016. And then that gets reauthorized over and over again for most of 2017, all by the same people. So you asked about, am I vindicated? No. Because vindication is impossible for this because you're never going to help the people who all got hurt. The only thing that President Trump and this administration can do is make sure that whoever can be held accountable are held accountable, and that this doesn't happen again. These people are taught a lesson so that this doesn't happen again. Tell me how significant you think this criminal referral of DNI Gabbards is. It proves so much of what we're talking about right now. The House Intelligence Committee made numerous criminal referrals back in 17 and 18, 19, 20. I don't know what happened to those. Like, whoever looked at them. So I think what you see coming from Director Gabbard and Ratcliffe and what Kash Patel is doing at the FBI, they're starting to actually find this information, release this information out to the public. You can start to begin to put the pieces together to what I know was a grand conspiracy by probably 2 to 3 dozen people. I look at it as from early 2016, when they started the Russia nonsense, all the way to the raid at Mar-a-Lago. The victim here is President Trump, and hopefully after all this information is laid out, you'll begin to see the people who abused their power and see the people that broke the law. Unbelievable. Well, you're now chair of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. What reforms are you pushing to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again? So one, thing we do is we have a quick reaction team based on if the president needs us to come in and look at something quickly, we have assembled that team. Secondly, we're looking at long-term fundamental reforms that include, not limited to, but include the weaponization of the intelligence agencies. That's what the president, that's his number one request to me. That's what I'm trying to carry out on a daily basis. But imagine where we sit today with all the things going around the world, and the president has to have the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, his own intelligence board, all making sure that the intelligence is not weaponized. I mean, it's rather incredible. This is something that's unprecedented in the United States of America. It makes, everybody compares it to Watergate.
But I can't help but wonder how all of what happened, starting in 2016, the Russia collusion hoax, impacted U.S. relations with Russia and this president's relationship with Vladimir Putin in particular, and have made it even more challenging to settle this war, to come to hopefully a peace agreement. They made his job a lot harder.
They made it not only hard, but Putin is also a very difficult historical figure. One of the reasons why I knew the Russia hoax was a hoax was because Obama was not doing anything to battle what Putin was doing around the world. Clinton, remember, had the reset button. Bush had stared into his eyes. I mean, it goes back for a long ways, all the successive administrations that wanted to play patsy with Putin. As it comes to today and the challenges that are here, the president, I believe, is saying, look, let bygones be bygones here. And I think he's kind of handling it really with fresh air, because you've never seen really diplomacy like this. It's really the age-old question that Putin has never been able to say yes to, which is, do you want to bring Russia into the 20th century, right? Not even the 21st. It's a rich country, major resources that's lived under, it went from Soviet oppression to a brief bit of hope to now being a very destitute place with a population that is dwindling. And China, who is probably, I guarantee you the Chinese are sitting there thinking about, well, at some point we're going to go in there, we're going to grab all those resources. And I think Putin's smart enough to know that, so he has to decide, does he want to finally, I'm not saying join the West, but just be normal. President Trump is putting his best foot forward to give Putin a way out of his mess.
Just want to get your thoughts before we let you go about your relationship with President Trump. You have become a big part of so much of what he's doing. So you must have a great relationship with him. And I know you know that he's the greatest boss there is out there.
I give him a lot of credit for being very unique and willing to try things that most people, would never try. And, you talk about the creation of Truth Social. Most people would have said, you're never going to compete with Twitter and Facebook and all that. And look, out of necessity, a company was built. Not because I always tell people that President Trump didn't need a company, another company. I didn't need a job. I was perfectly fine in Congress. But we all needed our voices back. We didn't have a voice. No one. Well, now he puts it out and boom, it goes all over the world. And look, I'm proud to be his friend. He's taught me a lot. And I think we're never going to see another figure like this. I've told him this to his face. There hasn't been a figure in modern political history like him. He was a business guy, wanted to be president, did a good job. He would have been fine. But instead, they threw the whole state after him, which has made him one of the most historical figures in U.S. history.
Well, Devin, thanks for sitting down with us. Thanks for all you're doing. Continue fighting the good fight out there. I know you will, but thanks for sitting down with us.
No problem. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.